Welcome everybody back here at Veil of Sound. We're creeping in towards the end of a new year, and everybody who has followed us on this marathon has seen some awesome stuff. I mean, like, imagine yesterday we had Steve Austin from Today Is the Day, one of those bucket list people to interview for me, and so many others. And the guy that we have today for you is like a perfect link between a lot of them. A very clear and clean link is to our first interview in this marathon, and that was with the Yellow Eyes brothers. And they told me to send their love to you, Patrick. So, Patrick Shiroishi, thanks for joining us here on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Our definite pleasure. Maybe you can also clue it up for those who might not have the Yellow Eyes interview. Why are black metal guys sending you their love all across the US?
Um, I think first and foremost, I'm like a fan of the music. I think there are some definitely problematic figures and bands, in the genre, but I
Yeah.
think there is a lot of also like really genuine and really like pure, musicians. And I think Yellow Eyes is, I've been a fan since their first record, and just being able to become friends with them and even collaborators has been huge. Another band like Sumac, I've been able to open for them and tour with them, and they're just like great fucking guys and stellar musicians. And yeah, I think the USBM scene is pretty fucking great right now.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so diverse. I mean, like, you could
Yeah.
throw a band like Yellow Eyes into the same pot as Wolves in the Throne Room, and
Yeah.
you could even say that a guy like Moor is doing some kind of blackened metal thing. Not even to mention Hell, and I mean, like, we could probably rave on for hours about the U.S. black metal scene at the moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we could still stay away from shit like Absu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great time. I think there has been a lot of, inventive, um, musicians who are pushing the boundaries and making their own spin on it. And, um, yeah, I think it's fucking great. I think it's a great time.
yeah. I think it's also the way that you've just mentioned one thing, and that is something that a lot of people don't see about black metal in general, and maybe also about the black metal scene in the US. It doesn't have to be formulaic. It can be so freakingly awesome and so inventive that,
Yeah.
you know, it proves that you can take a genre and mix it with completely different stuff. We
Yeah.
will also talk about some of the black metal artists that you have been working with before, not only with Yellow Eyes, but one can see that there is definitely a lot of possibilities in there.
Totally.
But of course, one of the first things that we always do here on the Veil of Sound is the pluck of the day. And I'll give you a moment to think about which band or project you think deserves a little bit more attention and which you want to pluck, therefore. I want to pluck a band that I had a hard time overcoming their last record. And I always, not always, but I very often push them because I think a lot of people have forgotten about them because of their last record, which proved that, a record is never as good as the sum of its parts because they worked with someone that I generally really like, but the record was still shitty. And that band is Dretch from Las
Mhm.
Gatos, close to San Francisco, maybe one of the top 10 avant garde rock bands
Oh yeah.
past the millennium. I always loved their shows. I always loved the record up to the last one. That really gave me a hard time, and I still hate it up to this day.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. But now, is that a band that you know?
I don't.
See, that's what I always. It's like I like to pluck stuff that even people
Yeah.
from the country don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we call ourselves the Veil of Sound. We're trying to lift the underground. So,
Totally.
but Patrick, never mind what we do. What band would you like to plug?
That I'm part of.
No.
Well, that I'm not a part of.
Yeah.
Let me see. I think just on the top of my head, I've been listening to a lot. Erosion.
Mhm.
It's Nick Action's band, the drummer from Sumac. But he kind of writes all the riffs and it's like a grindy kind of hardcore-ish band. But I think they're fucking fantastic. They just released a new record a couple months ago.
Second
Um,
half of 2025, right? Something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Have you heard it?
I have. I really liked it. But
Yeah.
again, sometimes with people who are in Sumac, you basically cannot do anything wrong. I'm like, Ryan is
True.
Ryan is probably the hottest and one of the best bass players in the world.
Yeah,
Nick
and
is amazing at everything he does, and yeah, Aaron is also okay.
pretty cool. They're all pretty cool, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All in and of themselves, right? Is it
Yeah.
also important for you when you work with people that you can bond on a personal level?
I mean, I think having that layer to the relationship will just make for better music, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I've had the privilege of improvising and making music with a lot of people, and I think, if you are able to shoot the shit and just hang, then you can kind of cut that initial level,
Hmm.
and like dig deeper
Yeah.
into like the conscious and like connect with the person in like a different way. Um, there's also, people that don't really like to do that, and I think that's fine too. And
Yeah.
I made music with people like that, but I feel like you know, when you can hang, it's just fucking, it's just next level.
Yeah. It provides depth and knowledge and also understanding of the people you work with, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that also show, and I want to have your verification on this one. Is
yeah.
it true that I don't know whether it was on the last Yellow Eyes record, but or on the one before on Master's Murmur? Is it true that you basically provided the part that you were supposed to do within a day and recorded it in a staircase somewhere where you were
Yeah,
supposed to perform?
yeah. I was on tour with The Armed, and we were at I think they messaged me, Will or Sam messaged me like, hey, we've been talking about like, just offhand here and there, like collaborating or being a part of the record. And I wasn't keeping my hopes up because I was like, they're like one of my favorite bands of all time. I think their songwriting is fucking just top fucking notch. The riffs, how they flow into each other and how they make perfect sense, but also at the same time, it's like, what's happening?
Yeah.
I think it's very special, and the fact that they are brothers and that they are able to just like complete each other's sentences musically and harmonically. Like the riffs just always are just like in perfect sync,
Yeah.
no matter where they're going. And, you know, Sam might stop and just play like, some chords, and then Will just play some other melody, and then they'll like switch, and it's just always fucking flowing. But anyways, so they hit me up and like, hey, we need this. We're trying to finish it up to drop it before maybe it was Halloween as well, or some
Yeah, something
specific.
like that. They said that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck. I was like, okay. I was like, well, I get home from tour in like, 5, 6 days. Like, we need it as soon as possible. And I was like, okay, I make it happen. I had my laptop, thankfully. And after we did sound check, we were playing in Revolution Hall
Mhm.
in Portland. And after we finished, I was like, all right, I'll be back. And luckily, it was like a huge kind of space with, I think it used to be like a school, maybe. So
Mhm.
there was a lot of different parts of the venue, and I found like this kind of stairwell, that I thought would be great for the acoustics of the horn. And I kind of just set up shop there and did a couple takes, and was like, here it is. I hope it's usable. And
I'm pretty
luckily,
happy.
yeah, some of the parts made it, which was a dream come true, you know.
And before I forget, I also want to give my thanks to Mrs. Shiroishi and say
Hey,
happy anniversary. Maybe, Patrick, you want to say something to your wife because the day this comes
hey.
out.
Yeah. I mean, she's the fucking best, you know. She supports me, and kind of encourages me more than myself, you know. She's fantastic. I don't think I would have quit my day job and taken music more seriously
Mm,
if it wasn't for her support and her push. And it's been great, you know, since then. I think it's been 3 years now, but I've been able to tour, which I wasn't able to do when I had the full-time job, you know, and travel more and say yes to stuff. And it's been a blessing, you know. Um, and if I have to go back to a full-time job, I think all of this is extra, you know, and I think
mm.
I think, you know, I have zero complaints, you know. I think it's fucking great.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you can definitely say, okay, I tested the waters, I went in, I dived in, and maybe it didn't work, but I still had a blast of a time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you've already said like now you're a full-time musician,
Yeah.
but do you think of yourself as a metal musician, a jazz musician, or just as a musician?
I think I think maybe just as a musician. Um, but I feel like I can fit into a lot of different spaces.
Hmm.
You know, and maybe that's just because of the things that I listen to. Like I listen to, you know, we mentioned I listen to a lot of black metal. I also listen to a lot of jazz. You know, I love free jazz as a saxophonist, like coming out from there. You know, I also love ambient music. I love hardcore music. You know, I even like some pop music. You know,
Well, everybody
uh,
has to have a guilty pleasure, right?
I have many. We're not going to talk about that, but
Oh, oh, hey, don't push me, don't push me.
yeah, like
But
and even like classical music these days. And I think just one having the interest in hearing all these things and also wanting to try stuff out. I think maybe because of that, um, I'm able to meet different musicians in different spaces, and then eventually getting to collaborate, you know, on a lot of different projects. So I feel very safe in like a metal scene, also like a free improv scene, or also like an ambient scene, or you know, a garage rock scene even, and just kind of flowing through it because at the end of the day, for me, like if you fucking rule, no matter what genre you're in, you fucking rule, you know? Yeah.
to give, I will always try to throw in a few bands and acts that you worked with. And I only looked at like the last couple of years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've already mentioned The Armed, we've mentioned Yellow Eyes, but you've also worked with a band like Big Brave with Jay Jail.
Yeah.
And those are already four completely different bands and acts. How do you always know, especially with like the collaborations where you're not a regular part of a band, like with The Armed, um, or a very, very regular collaborator? How do you know what a song needs?
I think I learned this lesson when I was younger. For me, I think um, the main thing at the end of the day is what's important is the song, right? It's not necessarily me wanting to stick out or play like a large part of the song. It's the music is what matters the most, and I think coming at it from that kind of perspective, um, kind of gets me in the correct mindset of like, okay, like, for also just like a huge honor to be a part of like, Evan's, music and Big Brave's music, which I'm also a huge fucking fan of. And um, I think if they have direction, I love to take it. But having the music be like the, you know, that my ideas or my sound isn't what's precious, right? It's the song or the piece, the composition, you know.
It's nice that you also mention again Big Brave and JJL. If anybody wants to know a little bit more about those people and what they do, please check our archives. We have two interviews with Big Brave, two with JJL, and we'll also come to other ones we had. There is something that, it's of course trying to describe what you do. I came up with the idea that much of your work is textural. It's not peaking, but it's like another layer here, another layer there. Would you agree
Mm.
with that?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of dimensions to the music, especially my solo stuff, you
Yeah,
know.
okay. Yeah, that's of course different. But when you
Yeah,
collaborate, for example, with Yellow Eyes, then it's very often like a nice texture here, a nice level there.
yeah. I mean, like whatever the song calls for, you know. I think
Yeah.
I was a guest on the Agriculture, their first full length, and that was just like a blast off, like that was just kind of more of a chaos kind of texture, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, but again, that was, what the song called for, and you know, um,
Do you remember the first record that you bought for yourself?
yeah, totally.
Which one?
It's Blink-182's Enema of the State.
I knew you were a little younger than me, but that you are so much younger than me that it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
man.
yeah, thanks for
I
making
think
me
that
feel
record
old.
still slaps. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never said it didn't, but it's just like, that is what, 99, 98, something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, almost 30 years old, that record. That's wild.
Yeah. The first one that I bought for myself was Appetite for Destruction.
Nice. Great one.
like 10 years earlier. But
Um,
nevertheless,
probably more
um,
cooler than my choice, but
but there is something in there that I also was wondering. And here I want to come to the Armed. You have been on a lot of the records. You've been on tour of them. Can we say that you are a general member of this collective?
yeah, I think at this point in time you could for sure.
And then the next question is, how involved are you in the songwriting of that band by now?
Right now I am contributing ideas at a very basic level. We're currently kind of writing or getting ideas for what the next record will be. And so we're kind of figuring it out and trying stuff out right now and seeing, what's going to happen with that.
How do you guys keep this level of productivity? I like it always strikes me because basically every 15, 16, 18 months we get a new VR record and it's always minimum as good as the one before.
Yeah,
Most of the time you're
good.
outscoring yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all fucking just excited about the music, I think um Tony and Kenny just kind of have a lot of ideas and things that they want to try out, and they'll send something and it's like, oh, this is fucking great, and then like I'll jump on or something, and then that'll spark another idea, and we kind of just go in like a circular motion, um we just finished our Midwest tour last week, and um it was just really great, and I think coming off of momentums like that from like a successful tour, we're like, oh man, like, all right, let's start writing stuff, you know, and figuring out what the next thing is going to be. And,
Mm.
we're going to the UK in January, and we're going to be on another tour in May, and kind of figuring out, okay, all of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's an exciting time. I think we're all really inspired with the music, and, I love this record that we just put out. I think it's of the current time, I think it's
But at the same
very
time, I
pissed
don't have
off.
a feeling as if it's going to be outdated in 2 years, which is also
Yeah,
very
I don't think
important.
so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah.
wanted to take The Armed as an example because I mean, like, as much as everybody would like to say, okay, this is a hardcore band, which they are at heart, but I think that there is much more to The Armed than just hardcore and punk. And that's also something for you. You are somebody in between. And now my question is, does that also, to a certain degree, have to do with you being a Japanese American?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Um,
I will have two more in that direction.
great. Um, I think being in between is something that has come up for sure. And I think even growing older with it, I think expecting more kind of clarity. Um, I mean, you expect more clarity, and just like coming, I think in the past maybe like decade, I've really explored my father's side, who was, there's three generations of that side that's been in the States here now. And just kind of investigating and wrecking with the fact of, how Japanese people were treated in America, and a lot of my records have kind of tackled that, the shit that happened in World War II and the concentration camps and, um, generationally what that means and how that impacts my parents and also myself and, my future generations. Um, and recently I've been looking more now towards my mother's side. And she's from Japan. Um, and
May I interrupt for 1 second?
of
So,
course,
to make it clear, was your father one of the Issei, the generation that was still born in Japan and who moved then, or was he already Nisei? I hope I pronounced it correctly.
yeah, yeah,
Otherwise,
you're
I'm
pronouncing it
sorry.
great. Great. No, 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 that's great. My father is a sansei,
Ah, so he's
and
the third generation. So he's
yeah,
the grandchild of Japanese immigrants.
correct, correct. And
Okay.
my mom is from Japan, so she would be, I guess, technically Issei.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's sorry for interrupting. So how did you then get to know all of that stuff from your family and this in betweenness?
I think a lot of it was kind of figuring it out on my own.
Mm,
You know, we would go to like the Japanese American History Museum when I was younger, but I really didn't understand.
mm.
Um, in my textbook there was like one paragraph about the camps.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of um investigating on my own, like post high school, you know, um, and looking into what that was, what that experience was like. Um, and luckily, I grew up with a couple of friends whose families also went through that. So,
Mhm.
um, one of the collaborators is Dylan Fujioka, who I've worked with a lot. We play in Upsilon and Crux together. We've improvised a bunch together. He drummed for Chelsea Wolfe. Um, but his grandparents were also in actually the same camp as my grandparents. So being able to talk to him about that was great. And then, the internet is a shitty place, but also it is kind of a beautiful place as well. And I've been able to like connect and have conversations with other, descendants of the camps and
Mm.
talk about that kind of shit. And that's been, incredible. Um, and I think so from going from that and also, I think in our culture, we don't really talk about feelings or emotions really, or, my grandfather passed away before I was born, and my grandmother never really talked about it at all. Um, which, part of me regrets not kind of pushing a little bit more to hear her stories, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't want to fucking make her sad,
Still
you
your
know?
grandma.
Yeah. And so kind of, I think it's difficult. I think it's great now. I feel like for me being kind of removed from being like a traditional Japanese man, like I talk loudly. I talk about a lot of feelings and, investigating these things that not necessarily is talked about, you know, um, which would then lead to like more conversations with, strangers or other people. And I think that's been great, especially in my scene. A lot more conversations are had, and I think that's important.
For everybody out there who might not know what we are talking about, I totally forgot that and just assumed that everybody knows. Not only the Germans had, for lack of a better word, concentration camps. I know in America they were called internment camps, um, but the Americans also had that, and they basically put, I'm not sure whether it was all or just a huge chunk of the Japanese population in the US into, I think it was 4 or 5 different camps. And they were kept there until even after the war. It started in the February of 1942, just a few weeks after the Pearl Harbor attack, and it lasted nearly a complete year after the end of World War II in Europe, a little bit more than half a year until or between the surrender of Japan in September of 45. So the camps were kept for a very, very long time. And so for a lot of people from the Japanese American community, that still, of course, poses a lot of questions, how to deal with that. Shall we deal with it? Would it be better to forget about it because we are living our lives in the US and we are not living our lives in Japan?
Yeah.
At the same time, of course, it's a burden to families, and I completely understand, but everybody wants to know a little bit more about that. So let me ask it this way. How did your father react when you were trying to get information from him?
I didn't really try to get that much information from him. I think I talked more to my aunt about it, but it was also
Mhm.
kind of a little sparse. Um, it was a lot of just kind of research on my own, I guess.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and going back to what you previously stated, I think it is important to talk about it.
Yeah.
Especially in these present times here in the States, like with all this ice shit and, they were taking, you know, people from their families and putting them in camps. And, one of the camps that they were taking them to was actually a land that, a camp that held Japanese Americans were on. It was like the same fucking place,
Yeah. Yeah.
and, uh, you know, I'm realizing now that I'm not as young as I think I am, and there is another generation
Yeah.
below me and several.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for them to know what happened, right? So this shit doesn't repeat because as we all know, unfortunately, history does repeat, and
Yeah.
that's like a fucking thing. I think we're in a weird, weird time, in the States. And I think it's even more important for people to stand up and speak out and um, come together and fight for things that you believe in.
Yeah. And also, especially, of course, the still minority groups in the US. I'm like, there is a huge Japanese American population, but it's not the biggest minority. So, of course, also those small minorities have to stand up.
Yeah, and
Um,
to be together, I think that is
yeah.
also, like the Japanese community should be supporting the Mexican community. We should all
And the
be
Korean community, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
and everyone just together because, they're just gonna pick apart people one community at a time and, you know, there is a fucking lot of us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, if you
Lot of
take
fucking
all those
noise.
minorities, then
Yeah.
you're close to the majority.
We're not a minority.
Yeah, yeah. Which also is strange. I mean, like, let's think about it. I mean, like, how many percent of Americans are still really white Anglo-Saxon Protestant?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's less.
I mean,
It's
case in
definitely
point,
not.
there is a bunch, in the middle.
Yeah, of course. And there is also a bunch everywhere. But when you
Yeah.
take all the majorities, it should be clear by now that white Anglo-Saxon Protestant is not going to be the majority within 10, 15, 20 years. But
Yeah,
anyway, we're drifting off.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way we do it here. Um,
Yeah.
I want to come back to this also in a way influencing you as a musician, or also your choice of musicians you work with. I mean, like we've already mentioned a few, but let's talk about Moor Mother. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Chelsea Wolfe, a woman at the forefront of folk doom, however we want to call it.
Yeah.
You've already mentioned our agriculture,
Mm.
and you've also worked with Shushu, which, of course, is one of the biggest bands when we're not talking about um, minorities from a cultural background, but minorities from a sexual and gender and everything in between kind of point of view.
Mm.
I mean, like you are probably not choosing your collaboration partners based on the fact, like, okay, they're immigrants, they're queer, they're whatever sexual orientation. You're not going to do that. But could it be that maybe subconsciously Patrick feels a certain connection with these artists?
I think it might be even, I think it's a mutual connection, you know. I think a lot of like, people that you mentioned, I have a huge admiration for, but
And I know that they have it vice versa.
I feel extremely lucky for that, but I'm not going to people like, hey, you should have
Mhm.
me on your album, you know.
That would
Uh,
not be very Japanese, would it?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't do that shit. Um, but I think just being in this scene and having a lot of intersection um with these musicians and maybe even just like shooting the shit, like we talked about before, but
Yeah.
um I don't know. I think getting older and older, the music community is just so fucking special. Like um, I met Chelsea and Ben when they were dropping like their first two records. Just being in LA and they're still dear friends, and being able to collaborate on Pain is Beauty, which I love that album so much. Very dear to me. Um, and just kind of going from there and just like from that world and Emma Ruth Rundle, who I had the chance of opening for, and she spoke some poetry on a song of mine. Just kind of stemmed from that relationship, and being in this world together. And um I don't know, I think I'm super lucky, like like you said, she's fucking huge. I mean, they're such a great musical entity, and also just like really fine humans, you know? Um, so yeah, I'm not putting that energy out there per se, but I think, um, I don't know where I was going with that, but I'm very honored to be, a small part of these huge discographies by these musicians who I think are really important, and saying something.
And also think that, of course, you've mentioned the love that you have for these musicians. As I said, it's mutual. And of course, there is this, I'm very sure, there is this subconscious level of, okay, this guy understands us, maybe
Yeah,
more than other people.
yeah.
I'm very sure about that. And then, just in a way, quickly, let's talk about the latest solo record that you put out in September, Forgetting is Violent,
Hmm.
which of course has to deal with all those things that we just mentioned.
Yeah.
Your place as a Japanese American and putting that into musical structures. Was that a difficult thing for you to do?
I think it's kind of like a culmination of stuff that I think for me, music is this reflection and space that I'm able to process things and, a lot of it is, kind of selfish for me, where it's like a place where, I'm working through stuff.
Mhm.
So it feels very natural, And I think for this record also, it felt like accumulation of all these things to that I've been trying with the saxophone, you know.
Mhm.
Um, my record and forget when it came out. But Dissension was, kind of this exploration of the saxophone through distortion and pedals.
Yeah.
Um, Evergreen was a lot of ambient sounds and textures and looking at it that way. And, this record has all of that as well as guests for the first time. And, we mentioned Big Brave and Sumac and, having those musicians be a part of it also was um, incredible, They did what they were more than I expected and just perfectly did the song justice, And I think that's all you could ever ask for.
To clarify who he's talking about, we're talking about Aaron Turner and his wife, Faith Colokia. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Uh, my dear friend Lane Shai from Lane Shai Otayoni, Matt Ball from Big Brave, but also Gemma Thompson. And let me guess,
Yeah.
Joanne Shiroishi is your wife. Or?
Joanne is my auntie.
Oh, so your auntie spoke some words on it.
She did. She's like the most activist in our family. Just kind of growing up and just kind of being this like voice of um maybe reason, but we had a conversation and I just taped it and I thought it was appropriate talking about all this stuff and she's been also advocating for groups for a long time. So having her in there was very special,
Mm.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very sure it was also for her probably a very cool moment.
Yeah.
Um, did you then also show her or play her a record that she knows what? Okay, you're on this. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I gave her a record. I think I was nervous about having to listen to it with her, but she
Mhm.
eventually found it and listened to it and she's like, "Oh, I'm on here." I was like, "Yeah,
It's me.
a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
special
Okay.
part actually." Yeah.
Um, and what I like about Forgetting is Violent is that just what you said. It basically is a culmination of what you have been doing over the last couple of decades, and it very clearly shows you in multiple perspectives as a musician and what you do. Um, and of course, a lot of it is based in jazz, free jazz, and of course, I have to ask a question: which was the first jazz or free jazz record that you bought?
Damn, the first jazz record I bought, um, I think it was Sonny Rollins' Saxophone Colossus
Mhm.
or Hank Mobley's Soul Station. I think those were the first two that I bought with my own money.
Mm.
And then the first free jazz record I bought was probably Peter Brotzmann's Machine Gun.
Oh yeah,
And that shit was fucking,
I'm very sure you also like his son's work, right? Cut.
yeah, great. Great stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
Was there a difference for you between diving into this punk and then later metal world and diving into the jazz world?
I think the point of entries were kind of different. Like growing
Mhm.
up in LA, we had the Smell and Paris Space, which are these all age venues for art rock, and so being introduced to that in high school and seeing this music live, I think was very impactful for me. Um, Seeing unconventional things and different genres and that music beyond the radio was possible, I think was huge. I think if I didn't have that, I'd be in a ska band or some shit. Um, but
So,
having that was super important. I think playing the horn itself, obviously lends to like jazz because, the saxophone is very connected to the jazz world, just visually even. And my mom would play some jazz. She had the jazz station on a lot when we were driving around and doing errands and things like that. Um, so they kind of were introduced pretty early on, very naturally, I think. And I think just treating it as music as a whole, and for me, I fucking love the discovery aspect of music, when just listening to stuff and like, oh, what the fuck is this? Who is this? You know, to like going to the smell and like seeing these bands I've never seen before and then buying their CDs and taking it home or, saving my lunch money and biking to the mall and buying these CDs like, oh, this cover looks awesome. Just the discovery aspect for me,
Yeah.
even still, I think it's so fucking cool and fun. There's so much sick shit that's out there, and even finding a band that's been doing it for like a decade, and then like entering from that point and then going to the back catalog and finding all this shit like, oh, this guy also played on this and you know what I mean? It's just like such a cool world. Um and I think, kind of looking at it like that, the is just super fun for me, and there's so many genres like I just started listening to this artist and I've never really listened to like drum and bass like intently before and kind of diving into that is has been cool. I'm like, oh shit, this is sick, you know.
So what was your latest discovery?
My latest discovery, um all right, I'm gonna push off of the drum and bass because I haven't done that much research yet, but I just
No
read this
problem.
biography of Eric Dolphy, who's this um I think genius, person, and he played with the John Coltrane, quintet for a long time, and inspired him. Who, Coltrane is obviously the god and the one. But Eric had this such a cool voice and incorporating like bird sounds and stuff. But he, I think sometimes you only get like a Discogs page,
Yeah.
especially if like an older generation where pre-internet, you can't have like shit just listed off. And so this book did a really great job of like having, all the records that he played on. And I had no idea of like, I have a list of like 17 records to check out, like, oh, he played with this and like he played on this album. Um, and just being, privy to that now and diving into what these other records are has been super fun for me.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, like it's isn't that always the case? Like we're always on the hunt, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just looked it up, and it's the guy died early, right?
Good. 36, man.
Yeah.
Undiagnosed diabetes. That's fucked up.
Lol. Yeah. It's hard to get from that to the next point. Um, yeah, because I'm like come from death to something different. Um, when I looked at your body of work, I'm like, first of all, it's fucking impossible to listen to everything that you did within a couple of weeks. Um, but there is one thing that I think is a very, very good thing, and that is, and I took that from a band who gave me that term a few weeks ago, Janiformity, like the possibility of having many multiple sides, facades. Um, you are able to perform with so many different artists. Is that for you more of a chance or more of a burden?
Oh, chance for sure. Not a burden at all. I yeah, I think I mentioned before, but I think I'm super lucky to be able to, you know, be asked.
Maybe I explained the burden thing
Oh
a
yeah.
little bit. Maybe. I mean, like, of course, first of all, it's a chance. You get to
Yeah.
perform with many, many awesome, amazing musicians, be on their records, tour with them.
Yeah.
amazing. But
Yeah.
at the same time, is it also not a certain burden because you also put out your own stuff? And, the burden here might be to define what is my solo work.
Mm. I mean, I think,
Or let's say not burden, but problem.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I still don't think it's a problem. I think
Cool.
my solo output is the selfish shit. That's what I'm talking about my family. I'm talking about what I'm going through. I'm talking about
Mhm.
shit that I want to talk about,
Mhm.
and bands even, um, and guesting, we're acting as like if we're in a band, it's like a collective thing, right? Guesting on a record, I'm just a nice puzzle piece in what they're trying to say and supporting them, you know. And I think they all kind of work together. I think that
Mhm.
I'm able to still be myself in all of these
Mhm.
instances.
Mhm.
Um, but the solo stuff for sure is just like the main vehicle, you know?
Mhm. When we stick to the idea of the puzzle, would you say that the chance of your solo stuff is that you are not asked to provide one or two things which have to fit to the whole puzzle,
Hmm.
but you are the maker of a puzzle and you decide what the fuck it looks like?
Yeah, exactly.
I can see that. I can see
Yeah.
that. Then it is probably more of a blessing. And maybe could it even be that because you are providing so many pieces of puzzles to other people's puzzles, that you might know more of what you are able to do and what you want for your solo stuff?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think guesting and collaborating and improvising with other people, right? I like to really listen to what's happening,
Yeah.
right? I want to be myself, but I also want to fit the larger picture
Yeah,
of
because your
what.
puzzle piece, if it's red and all of the other stuff is blue.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I might play differently than I had before doing
Mhm.
this specific thing, and then be like, oh shit, that was kind of sick, and taking that and incorporating that, or working it out, and then hopefully incorporating that into like a future solo thing. I think that opens a lot of other ideas to come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean it's a blessing for sure. Yeah.
So, Patrick, first of all, thanks for the insight in all of your records and especially all the way that you work.
Yeah, thank
But nobody leaves the Veil of Sound interview without the quick fire round at the end. And of course, having you on, I thought, okay, let's give the guys some difficult stuff. So, John Zorn, which
Huh.
project of his do you like more, Painkiller or Naked City?
I gotta go Naked City.
Mm-hmm.
That was the
Why?
first record
Okay.
that made me that I've heard that was like, oh, saxophone could be played not in a jazz context, and it
Mm-hmm.
can do different things, and it can exist in grindcore, it can exist in traditional jazz, it could exist in like a show tune or whatever the fuck, but like an extreme version. Um, and so yeah, that was super formative for me in college hearing that band. Painkiller's cool too, but for me,
Yeah,
Naked
yeah,
City.
yeah, yeah. Not saying it isn't. Um, it's interesting that you are talking about the possibilities, and it might be a little stereotypical, but I'm gonna give you three couples which are all based in Japan. So
Okay.
let's start off with a very extreme shit: Merzbow versus KK Null.
Where's Bell versus who?
KK Null, the guy from Zenigeva who turned to
Yes,
extreme
yes, yes.
noise.
I have to pick one of them.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Merzbow just for my personal preference.
it's always about your personal preference. Um, and then Zenigeva versus Envy.
Ooh,
Easy one for me.
I'm gonna
I
go
take the
Envy.
pass.
I'm gonna
And
go
yeah,
Envy.
I mean, like I have seen a lot of concerts in my life, but when I had to think of the one band that never disappointed, that always delivered, even though I've seen them half a dozen times, it's probably Envy. Never
Damn.
disappointing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, shout out them.
Yeah. And the last one, a little different in their music, but both love heavy guitar sounds. So I'll give you Boris versus Mono.
Woo! For me, I gotta go Boris
Mm-hmm.
because I think
Yep.
they are kind of like a blueprint of what I want to do. You know, they do so many different fucking genres
Oh
they
yeah,
pop
yeah.
and they're
The
still
eclecticism behind
them.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're still them, you know, and they take chances and risks and, you know, but they're still heavy as fuck.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah.
They provided one of my favorite road burn moments ever. I remember them playing in 2018, and they were playing with Stephen O'Malley, and they had 24 amps on stage.
So sick.
I'm not going to say how many O'Malley used because he still denies the roadie scheme that I got.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
nevertheless, all of a sudden, in the middle of a song, in the middle of a hurricane of, I don't know, gargantuan dimensions, the
Yeah.
drummer leaves his drum kit, goes to the front, and has two tiny bells. And he's like, gong.
Love that.
Yeah,
That's so fucking cool.
yeah,
Also, if any Roadburn people are listening, I'm trying to get in on that.
yeah. I can understand that. And I think you would make a great addition.
Thanks.
Um, Again, a little stereotypical, but extreme music with saxophone, or I think no, I'm very sure in both cases it's a saxophone. Rivers of Nile versus White Ward.
Ooh. I haven't really spent time with both that much, to be honest.
Then take White Ward.
All right, done.
Um, let's go. I have like two more, no, three more band questions.
Great.
Shall we do the easy ones first, or do you want to go the hard ones?
Yeah, let's do easy to hard.
Okay, Refused versus Snapcase for the old hardcore kid.
Oh, for me, refused.
Yeah,
Shape of Punk to Come was just very, it just hit me at a very specific point and just like the riffs and the production of whenever it came out was just so fucking future. And I was like, God damn. And they also had like the techno influences and shit and the radio sounds. That shit was just so fucking good. I think it's their best work for sure.
and you've of course also noticed the jazz reference in the title.
Yeah.
Ornette Coleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cornette, man.
Let's go a little bit of hip hop. Run the Jewels or Wu Tang?
Wu-Tang. Very fast.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Um,
I think Run the Jewels is great. I think LP is a fantastic producer. Killer Mike spits bars, but as far as just like what Wu-Tang has done, that first generation of like solo records, and you know, I still think they can all fucking flow. I mean, it's yeah, I think they're just an iconic,
Apart from Old Dirty
undeniable
Bastard,
force.
he's just
Yeah.
flowing on germs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I still remember when they first were became known here in Europe, and everybody was like, nine MCs? Huh? Nine
Yeah.
MCs? Yeah,
Yeah.
I still remember it. But let's go to big and even louder than Boris, and
All
maybe
right.
even more disturbing than Boris. I'll give you Sun versus Khanate.
For me, I gotta go Sun.
Can you say why?
I think they just hit like a specific sonic that just really resonates with me.
Yeah,
You know, and I love like the inclusion of like the trombones on the Monolith album, and
yeah.
you know, I feel like
Or the
they,
organ on the later albums. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I think but it just like works perfectly still,
yeah,
you know, um, and they just have such a visual vibe. I think that's just so fucking sick too.
yeah. I'm
you
like,
know.
when those guys come on stage, I mean, like already because of their sheer tallness. I mean, both guys are just fucking tall, and then they have
Yeah,
the hoods on and everything.
yeah.
They look
And then
like
the
I don't
wall
know.
band, dude,
Yeah.
just yeah.
So
Sonically and
yeah,
great.
you mentioned pop guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
Gaga versus Tay Tay.
I'm gonna go with Gaga.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Last two.
All right.
Um,
These are
I
fun.
think, yeah, I think the next one is interesting. Which movie would you rather rescore? Blade Runner or Event Horizon?
I mean, I would like to do Blade Runner, but I think it's perfect.
Yeah, it's Vangelis.
So
Yeah.
there's no fucking point for me to try and recreate that.
So it would be Event Horizon.
Yeah.
That would also have been my choice, and I can also say why. Because, and I would love to have it as a rescore of the complete uncut stuff that was done. There are some scenes that are uncut from Event Horizon. I would love to have them in there because there you could do just absolute utter chaos.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. The last one, I don't know if it's easy for you or not, but
All right.
would you rather play a big stage at a jazz festival or a small stage at a metal festival?
Hmm. Damn, that's a good one.
Thank you.
I I think at this moment in time, okay, this is like a weird one. I feel I like smaller stages a lot more.
Mhm.
Just because it's more intimate and I personally like that energy. If I could play on the floor, I would just rather play on the floor. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but I think I would be interested in playing at the jazz thing because I feel like I don't know if something to prove is the right words, but
Maybe.
I don't know if I don't think I'm necessarily jazz. You know what I mean? I mean, I
Yeah.
play a saxophone, but that's kind of the only thing. And I think playing to maybe like a more traditional audience and be like, hey, you could do different things with this
Mhm.
jazz instrument,
Mhm.
um, I think would be a challenging experience for both parties. You
I
know?
also I also gave you this question as the last one for two reasons. First of all, it blends in with the question that I had before. Do you consider yourself a metal musician, a jazz musician, or a musician?
Yeah.
I would also say that you are a musician who fits into both worlds, and therefore I would also agree with yes, jazz might be a choice. And I also do not want to forget for everybody out there that you can see Mr. Shiroishi not only as part of The Armed in January, but he will be playing the Zebulon in LA on January 3rd. So in just a couple of days,
Yeah.
next week basically. And
Yeah.
he will be playing I hope I have it written down correctly, the Horse Hospital Colonnade in London, January
Yeah.
13th.
Yeah.
So
I've never been there before, but I'm pretty excited. I think I'm gonna be playing Forgetting His Violin from front to back. This should be a
that
cool
sounds that
thing.
sounds like a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's in the middle of a week, so I can't fly over. Thank you for that.
Next time.
Yeah, next time. I would really love to hear that
Yeah.
record from front to back, or back to front would also be interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
Patrick, thanks for your time. Thanks for all the insights into how you work, also into how your work blends in with yourself. And for everybody, um, if this is the one musician in our 9 days marathon that you might not know enough about, first of all, go to our website. We have numerous reviews of Patrick's work. One of them about forgetting is violent. And please listen to his body of work. The guy really has something to say.
Thanks, man.
Patrick, your chance for final last words. And remember, December 29th, be nice.
Yeah. Let's hope next year is better than this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could say many bad things about that, but I try to be positive.
Yeah.
Christmas, the Christmas menace is over. Now we're gliding into the new year.
Yeah, we're 2 days
Patrick,
away
thanks for all
from
your time.
Thursday. Yeah, let's fucking make it count.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Thanks.
Let's make 26 count.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your time.
Thank you.